We weather the storm and the squalls on the shore, dropping ill anecdotes that you ain't heard before. This ain't casting away, it's a deep sea dive, extracting the truth so the culture can thrive. We dissect every piece of the wreckage and rust, turning nautical tales into audible trust. So batten the hatches and lock the main gate. The Shipwreck Podcast is determining fate. Yo, we weather the storm and the squalls on the shore, dropping ill anecdotes that you ain't heard before. This ain't casting away, it's a deep sea dive, extracting the truth so the culture can thrive. We dissect every piece of the wreckage and rust, turning nautical tales into audible trust. So batten the hatches and lock the main gate. The Shipwreck Podcast is determining fate. Yo, we weather the storm and the squalls on the shore, dropping ill anecdotes that you ain't heard before. This ain't casting away, it's a deep sea dive, extracting the truth so the culture can thrive. We dissect every piece of the wreckage and rust, turning nautical tales into audible trust. So batten the hatches and lock the main gate. The Shipwreck Podcast is determining fate. Yo, we weather the storm and the squalls on the shore, dropping ill anecdotes that you ain't heard before. This ain't casting away, it's a deep sea dive, extracting the truth so the culture can thrive. We dissect every piece of the wreckage and rust, turning nautical tales into audible trust. So batten the hatches and lock the main gate. The Shipwreck Podcast is determining fate.
Yo. How we doing today? I'm your host, Bobby Ship. Once again, it's the Shipwreck Podcast coming to you on a new day. We had to postpone it from yesterday because we wanted to watch that travesty of a basketball game last night. So we put everything to the side so we can watch that in hopes of seeing, personal hopes, I should say, of seeing the Spurs beat the Knicks, because I absolutely hate the Knicks. I hate the Knicks fans even more. They are atrocious. I used to think that the Cowboys fans were the worst, but I've come to realize that the Knicks have the worst fan base of any sport in the world. I truly believe that in my heart and soul. And I really don't want them to win. Usually, when it comes to um, sports, I like to see the underdog. I like to see the team that hasn't won in a long time, because their fan base do deserve it. Not the Knicks. The Knicks don't deserve shit. They don't deserve anything at all but a loss. So I am just hoping beyond hope that they can lose these next 3 games, that Wemby and De'Aaron Fox and the coach can get their head out of their ass and win these next 3 games, because the Knicks do not deserve to have anything. They had me online last night saying, at least Trump finally did something right, broke the Knicks mojo. It took them 4 quarters to get his stink out the MSG, and when they did, they just took over and won. It's absolutely, I just can't believe the Knicks won that game last night. What was the coach doing? It was 9 minutes left in the game. The Knicks are in a penalty. Wemby, take your tall ass down there and get fouled. Castle, go to the rim. What are we doing? I don't understand how that even happened. Lord have mercy. Anyway, well, here we are. So that is why we are here on Thursday instead of Wednesdays. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to today's talk. I didn't know if there would be a verdict by today, but the verdict came in 1 hour and 45 minutes, which says a lot to me. And we're going to get into it, because today's topic is going to be about Carmelo Anthony murder trial. For those who don't know, he was convicted of murder on Tuesday afternoon. And I did not know here in Texas, I am in Texas, here in Texas, that the jury actually does the sentencing. and the boy was sentenced within 2 hours of being found guilty. Um, we're going to get into. I have a lot of videos today. I'm not going to lie. Took me hours to really splice and dice because I wanted to bring not what was heard, not what the rumors were, but actually what was said in court. Because the Shipwreck Podcast, we are here to be as factual as possible. So to sit here and we can say, well, I heard that somebody seen a video, whatever. Was that video admitted into evidence? Was you know what I mean? And if it wasn't, why wasn't it? Because to sit here and bring out rumors, well, this. Well, I heard he was jumped. I heard it was like 4 or 5 of them on him. Well, was that what was said in court? That's what we have to go by. Now, could people be lying? Could everybody have been lying? Absolutely. But that is why I wanted to go through the videos because there were no cameras, there was no audio, and there was, I guess, you had to be a news reporter really to get the transcript. So I found a channel that had a reporter that was in the courtroom for all of the days, and came out every day reporting on what the testimonies actually were. So that's what we're going to go over and look at. I'm looking forward to this, to talking to people about it. Hopefully, we can have people on the other side. We've been having a heated debate in my household, honestly, over it. So I hopefully we can have a heated debate on that. With that being said, bring our first guest on, he's always here with us, my brother Ronnie. How we doing today, my brother? How you doing today?
What's good, people? What's good? What's good? What's good?
Yeah, yeah,
Always good to see you. Be blessed with your presence and the presence of the people that are listening in and whatnot. Joining in on with us.
yeah.
God gave us another week of, happiness. So
Absolutely,
I feel blessed, man. I feel blessed. So you know how I go.
absolutely, absolutely,
Appreciate you.
absolutely. Yep, yep. But before we get into what's going on, I just want to get into what's popping. We had a bunch of things that happened this past couple of weeks, or past week. We're back at war with Iran. The ceasefire has ceased, as if it never really ceased to begin with. But we're back on to quote unquote hot war, is what I call it. Trump has come out today though and said that he called off some big attack that he had planned because a new announcement is about to happen. Fun fact, y'all. I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but that was the 39th time he said a deal is about to be made within reach. 39 times.
I would have thought that number would have been triple.
He's gonna be right. One of these times it's gonna be true. One of these times.
We
So
hope
you
it
had
be.
that. Yeah, you had that. You had then you had this Stephen A figured out that he was black this week
Mm,
and not
mm,
one of them.
mm, mm,
Because Trump called him low IQ. And it's really funny to me that he considers only people he called low IQ are women and minorities.
mm.
He don't call white men low IQ. Never. Never. He just don't. He don't. And if I'm wrong, please send something in the chat and we'll bring it up and talk about it. But so yeah, that's really what's popping. I really, we're gonna get into real quick our accountability and where we at there. And then I want to get because like I said, I got some videos and literally it was 2.5 hours of videos and I tried to cut it down and I think I got it down to about 20 something minutes. And I broke them up into days, day 1, day 2, day 3 of the trial. Because again, like I wanted to be factual about it. About what was said in court. I'll say it that way. I want to be factual about what was said in court and how the jury came up to with their determination. And let's talk about if we agree with that or not. Like I said, they had a chance of convicting them on murder or manslaughter, and they went the murder route. I don't see the murder route. I can wrap my head around the manslaughter, possibly, but definitely it was not murder in my opinion. It's a sad situation all around, and no means even if he did bully the boy did bully Austin did bully Carmelo. Nobody deserved that. Bullying should not be a death sentence either. So it's a tragedy all around. I feel for all of the families involved. What do you think so far before we get into our accountability and then start watching some videos?
Yeah, nah. So both of these families, matter of fact, the public over there and the community over there are gonna be, affected. But the families are, they both gonna have gaping holes in
Yeah.
in their lives. You know what I mean? So I agree. There shouldn't have never been, you know what I'm saying, nothing to the extent of where what potentially or what did happen.
Yeah.
Where basically really, you lost a life and you're gonna lose basically another life or
Hmm.
lose some time in that lifetime
Vast majority of it.
for yeah, right. Uh, but he's still breathing, and his mom can still go visit him and all the other stuff. On the other side,
Hmm.
that kid's gone for
He's
something
gone.
that could have been
Trivial. Extremely
right.
trivial.
That could have been handled a completely different way. But we can say that
Yeah.
about a gazillion different situations. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We can say
Absolutely.
that. We can say that about the freaking people that shot that kid in the back.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, you know
And
what I'm
I
saying?
didn't have. Go ahead.
So we can talk about a million different ways of what ifs or what it could have been.
Hmm.
Ultimately, these our kids are gonna, or people, I should say, our kids, but people are just gonna start. They do rational things for a lifelong consequence type things, right? So I always tell
Hmm.
folks, and this is what I tell my kids: is if you go do something, be prepared for the consequences.
Yeah.
Like if you go do something good, be prepared for the great consequences. If you go and think about, doing something bad or potentially doing something bad, be prepared for the consequences. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. If you want to go out there and put yourself in a position where you can potentially have good or bad, I'm always shoot for the good. You know what I mean? So I mean that goes on both. That goes for on a bunch of different things that's happening out here in the real world. So ultimately, what kids need to really start understanding is like rational decisions now have big dividends, or they have good and bad dividends. It could be a liability. It could be an actual plus that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. And that's what they need to start realizing. Now it's not just now; it's every time.
Hmm.
So that's the big thing I try to put out there for folks to
Yeah.
understand, especially my children.
Yeah, I understand that. All right, so let's get into our accountability since we got each other on here. I'm still running. I'm in week 7. I got one more run to do tomorrow, to finish out the week 7, and then next week is my last week. I'll be completed. I have already ran a 5K, just through the program, through my daily program. So I am getting there. My biggest thing now is I'm trying to get my heart rate down. So, but my fitness level is definitely increasing. I have not found that run as high. I don't, I hope it come one day, but I haven't found that yet. Let me see what else. The podcast, we're
Say,
still potting. Um, and I guess my other thing is the nonprofit is going great. It's going great. We've gotten our first 2 students that we have supported that are taking the tutors classes. Um, and we also posted a video from the NJROTC unit that we helped go to their training, and they sent a happy video back. Matter of fact, that's what's going. We'll talk about that later. I got to pick that up. But yeah. So, how was your accountability challenge this week? Before we get into these videos,
great, great, great. I owe today. I haven't actually done my push-ups
I
today,
owe
but you
some
already
too.
know. I owe. When I owe, I owe. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So I'm gonna
yeah.
take care of that in a few. Other than that, everything else is working sweet, man. Uh, school's out. Oh,
Hmm.
excuse me. School, or tomorrow's the last day of school, but so the kids gonna be
Oh
super
wow.
happy. The
Okay.
good part about that is traffic is in the morning is gonna be really great.
Hmm.
You ain't got to deal with too many of the school buses. Kids deserve these breaks, man. They deserve that reset in their head. So,
Teachers do
parents,
too. Teachers
yeah,
do
oh,
too.
100%. Teachers definitely for sure do. But parents and people that support our teachers, allow them to be them for the time being that they get to do their thing, because it's been a long school year and a whole bunch of stuff happened. So
Yeah.
let them enjoy their let them enjoy their time.
Hmm. All right, so let's get into this. So again, we're going to be talking about Carmelo Anthony's trial. This is day 1. This is obviously opening statements and a bunch of eyewitnesses. So let's just get into it and then talk about it on the other end. Day 1.
Look, there is no question that race is one of the elements that has made this story the center of a lot of attention. Now, this jury
It's 12 people. We're told it is made up of 3 Asian women, 1 Middle Eastern woman, and a woman of color. But reportedly, no African Americans are on this jury, and the rest of the jury is made up of white men. Now, according to local reports, 3 African American women were stricken from the jury, claiming they had bias in the case, claiming they didn't want to convict Karmelo Anthony. Now, the court went through more than 600 potential jurors in the selection process, and one question we are told hung up a lot of people was whether they could convict a teenager and put him away for life. So you have the prosecution who says that Metcalf's team told Karmelo Anthony to leave from being under the tent and Karmelo wouldn't move. And the defense says that the reason that Karmelo went to the tent is because he had recognized a close family friend of his girlfriend. Now, the defense says that once Austin Metcalf and his twin brother noticed Karmelo, they told him to leave, and Karmelo was just confused as to why it was a big deal that he was under the tent. Now, the prosecution says that when Karmelo was asked to leave the tent, he said something along the lines of "make me." When Austin Metcalf stepped up to Karmelo to tell him to leave, they end up having some words, and that's when Karmelo Anthony allegedly stabs Austin Metcalf in the chest. And a big piece of information that is new information to us related to the alleged murder weapon, prosecutors say it was a folding knife, and that knife was already opened. And they allege that the knife was ready, and they say that Karmelo Anthony was looking for a reason to use it. They characterize what happened as Karmelo baiting Austin Metcalf into a confrontation. Now, the defense side of it, again, very different from what the prosecution is saying. They are arguing that Karmelo had to act in self-defense. They say that Austin Metcalf was the aggressor. They say that Austin made the first physical contact with Karmelo, and Karmelo had to react in a moment of chaos, and he used that knife to protect himself. So after the stabbing, Karmelo ran. The prosecution argues that the fact that he drops the knife and he takes off, it proves guilt. They also say that he tried to allegedly blend in with the crowd when people went looking for him. The defense, they say that Karmelo ran because he was defending himself, that he was trying to get out of the situation. And they say that he went to one of his coaches until police arrived. Now, once police arrived, Karmelo is quoted as saying, quote, "I'm not alleged, I did it." And prosecutors say that proves that Karmelo knew what he did. They also say that Karmelo said, quote, "I told him not to," when speaking about Austin Metcalf. And they say that also shows that Karmelo wasn't afraid for his life, that Karmelo, they argue, murdered Austin Metcalf. Now, the defense, they look at the sequence of events a little different. They say that the fact that Karmelo said, "I'm not alleged, I did it," that doesn't prove anything. They say, if anything, it shows that he wasn't hiding the fact that he was involved in this altercation and that he had to do it because it was self-defense. Now, of course, a big question that was raised by prosecutors right out of the gate this morning is, I think, a question that hangs over this trial. And it's, why does a 17-year-old kid competing at a high school track meet, middle of the week, why does he need to bring a knife with him?
One of the questions that the defense attorney asked every single witness, we're talking about the tents. And a lot of these coaches, being coaches in competitive sports and being in the culture of track and field, they were talking about track and field culture, how each tent is kind of like your locker room. For example, if you're in the NBA or the NFL, you have 2 locker rooms and, players don't go back and forth between each other's locker rooms. And they were trying to explain that the tents were kind of the same thing. You might walk by and see a friend that you say, "Hey, what's up?" But you're not hanging out under the tents. But what the defense kept harping on with each witness, there was the whole idea of the rain delay and the rain was coming down. Centennial High School, where Karmelo Anthony went, was the only school here that did not have a tent posted up that day. And he kept saying that to each witness. "Did you know the Centennial High School did not have a tent?" And they were, "No, I was unaware, what have you." And then he would follow up saying, "Well, it would make sense for a student to want to get out of the rain." And they were, that's a fair assessment. No one wants to get drenched. He asked that question pertinently with every single witness. I understand the generality of the question, but I don't know what that question has to do with a first-degree murder charge. But other than that, Chris, he didn't really harp on anything in an aggressive manner with any of this emotional testimony going on here today. Coach Hooper's right there, and she looks to Coach Hooper saying, "They said he stabbed this kid, Austin Metcalf. Don't let Karmelo Anthony leave." So, Hooper's like, what do you mean stabbed? He's flustered. He said he didn't even register what was really going on. He heard the commotion. He saw his students running, and they're saying the stabbing thing, but he said it just wasn't really computing in his head. So he looked to Carmelo Anthony, who was standing right next to him, and he said he just put his arm around him, and they just went walking around the track. And Hooper said that he looked at him and said, "You stabbed someone, son?" And then Carmelo responds to him, "He put his hands on me. He put his hands on me. Yeah, I stabbed him." And Hooper says he looked at him and told him, "Well, if that kid dies, your whole life changes today." And then he said Carmelo looked back at him and said, "Well, he's not going to die." And then Hooper said, "Okay, but if he does," and Hooper said before he could even finish, Carmelo started crying, and they just continued to walk. And Coach Hooper said that he felt that Carmelo's emotions were genuine. He said he didn't feel that they were some kind of fabrication. I mean, he was literally crying moments after what happened. So
That was day one. We'll get more to the testimony here for day two. But to me, first off, I'm gonna just start with, I feel like Carmelo, by all accounts, was a good kid. 3.8 GPA, 2 jobs, literally had 2 jobs. And when I first seen it on Twitter, I thought it was just some BS, whatever like that. When he was younger, he actually saved the kid's life from drowning in a pool. So, and then if you look at his actions after what happened, he ran to a coach. He wasn't trying to flee and run and get away or anything like that. Like the prosecutor tried to say, he ran to a coach. When the police came, he said, "Yeah, I did it." You know what I'm saying? He gave his name and stuff. That was stuff I had to cut out, like, again, because there's so many videos. When the police arrived, he told who his name was, spelled his name out, and he said, "And it's not alleged I did it." Um, he was remorseful from the beginning. Like, it wasn't one of those things. Like, to me, it just didn't add up to murder. To me, it just didn't. It just didn't add up at all to murder. Just such a shame. Such a shame. What do you think,
My
Ronnie?
thoughts, man. Uh,
So
so like like a lot of people, thinking about this stuff. I think as kids, they do rational things, irrational things, uh, at a spurt. You know what I'm saying? Not really thinking of the long term deal.
they said it was
I'm
blurry.
I'm
Everybody
I'm
said it
I'm
was
sure
blurry.
he didn't intentionally kill it. He didn't intentionally kill this that kid, Austin. I honestly, that in itself was something that shouldn't hit a murder, uh,
Yeah,
a murder charge. Manslaughter,
yeah.
yeah, I can see that. He should have never had the knife there in the first place. Real talk. Um,
I think
uh,
this is a good
so,
segue to
so,
say what the difference of between murder and
so,
and
yeah. So the letter of like whenever I've done like I've actually had to sentence people when I did some court martial. Like so the letter,
wow.
yeah. I sent some people to jail. But the whole thing is like when you when you sentence people, the law is literally black and white. It literally
Yeah,
tells you specifically. There is no gray area in that. It's specific. Here are your guidelines. It can be if it hits these wickets, it has to be hit all the wickets. Boom, boom. It can't hit 9 of the 10 wickets. It has to hit all 10 to move it to certain categories. And then when you get into those blocks, it's like you're charging, uh, you have to stay in that window. There is no ambiguity into that. So I'm sure when they read to them all those charges to them, and they start going over the sentencing guidelines. Uh, it's tough on
well,
it's tough on jurors, man. Honestly, I don't care if you are bigot or not. You know what I'm saying? Now
yeah.
should it have been uh someone of his hue? Yeah, hell, it should have been. You know what I mean? Of your peers. You know what I'm saying? But should it have been murder? No, he didn't intentionally go out there and kill that kid.
I think
So that don't hit
yeah.
that's 9 out of I don't even got to read the rest of it. If you miss one of those out of that, it does not fit uh
Well,
that thing.
this is I don't know if you just see it on the screen or
Yeah, I
not,
can.
but I put up here it is capital murder one, which is what he was convicted of, versus manslaughter. So just read it for everybody else that's watching. Murder one, in Texas definition, is intentionally or knowingly causes the death, premeditated and deliberate, specific circumstances. And it's punishable from death to life without parole. Manslaughter in Texas is definition of penalties. What is reckless causes death, no premeditation or intent to kill, failure to perceive risk, culpable negligence, drinking and driving, criminal negligence, stuff like that. So, and a sense to that is 2 to 20.
Right.
In my opinion, that's where this is going to should have fell to. It didn't. Um, but Unc, I know you're there. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So how do you feel about, like I said, day one so far? We got a few more days to get
Hey,
into.
first I want to say, how you guys doing? What's going on, Ryan?
What's good, brother, man?
We
All right.
doing good.
Oh man, the thing for me, to be very honest with you guys, is I really don't know a lot about the case. And,
Yeah, that's why I got these
and
videos to
and
show
I
us
was
so that way
trying to
you can
catch
see.
up. I mean, I knew the incident, I knew what happened, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of the details of the case of
Detail.
what
Yeah.
happened, what transpired. It's a bunch of he he say she say type stuff. They claiming something and the other side's claiming something else, and who's right and who's wrong. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of you not even going to be able to really decipher because you have a situation where you have a black kid that killed this white kid, right? The first question is, why the heck is he on campus with a knife? Period. My
And,
grandson ran track. I know exactly what he's talking about. Those tents, because his school
mm-hmm.
had a tent too, and they're absolutely right about the tents. That's kind of their area. They all spaced out on the stands on the opposite side of the field, and they're spaced out, and it's kind of like their area. But the main question is, why is this kid on campus with a weapon? And I'm trying to understand that first. I
and
mean, what was going
and
on and what transpired to make him feel like he need to be taking a weapon to a track meet?
and this is where I think one of the comments that was asked was, did he hire a lawyer or have a public
That's a
defender?
good
And the reason why
question.
I'm saying that is because he did hire the lawyer. The lawyer was hired. It was a white lawyer that the parents said that they were told to get a white lawyer by other black folks, black people. I don't know black lawyers or who told them that, but that's what they did. Anyway, that's here there. But he hired a lawyer, and the lawyer never addressed that. That's why we're gonna. Like I got day two to talk get into, and by the end of closing, you'll see. To me, his lawyer was trash. His lawyer was absolutely
Trash.
trash, and I tried to hold that. I want people to see it for themselves, but you'll hear it from the reporter even. Um, so because that question you asked
Mhm.
about, why did he have, the lawyer never addressed it. The defense never addressed it. The prosecution never brought it up why he had a knife, and the defense never answered or never came up with it, never even addressed it at all for why he had the knife.
I understand him. I hear that also what you just said about the lawyer. He should have had, should you get a black lawyer, white lawyer? Hey, look, I don't care if if my ass is in a jam where I need a lawyer. I want a good lawyer.
Yeah, I want to.
I
Yeah,
don't care
exactly. The
what your
color don't
color
matter.
is.
I want the best
I
of
don't.
the
I
best.
want a
But in
competent
them shoes,
lawyer
they got.
that can get me
Yeah,
out, right?
yeah, I agree. I agree. I want the best of the
But
best.
there still is
Um,
there's some questions that remains about what was going down because there have been claims that he felt as though he needed to protect himself. But I'm telling you,
yeah.
I've been
That's
to
let's
a
get into
lot
it.
of these track meets. I don't understand what he think. Wait, why he think he need to protect himself? And then here's the deal: when you go to these track meets, it's not like these are different schools. If I'm
Yeah.
understanding this correctly, this wasn't even he was intruding on another school's event. Why did he think that was
Mhm.
okay?
It was
He
it was
knew
raining
he
pretty
knew
hard.
You
It
know
was
what?
raining.
When it's raining, let me tell you something.
Well,
Hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me tell you something. Hold on,
hold
hold
on,
on.
before you go. It was not raining that hard when and everybody they said it was
Yeah.
drizzling. There wasn't even an
Let me
actual
tell
rain.
you.
That was stuff I had to
Even
get
if
out
it's
just for
raining,
everything.
I've been there when
It
there's been
rained hard.
storms, right? The
Mhm.
storms come through. Guess what you do? You go underneath the stands and you wait it out.
Mm.
Even the track athletes go underneath the stands and wait it out. He didn't have to go and intrude on someone else's area because I think that's just a cop out, to be honest with you.
Now,
If
now
that's what
he
he's
says he
saying.
was.
Go ahead.
He's saying that he was invited. That's what he knew somebody there. He didn't know somebody that was in the. Let's continue on.
Okay.
Let's
If he
talk.
knew that, then and within the trial, why didn't he have this
Yeah,
person come up and
they,
testify for
they
him?
did. So,
Is that a
so
lawyer issue?
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's watch it. Here we go. This is
Go
day
for it.
two. This is the prosecution still going.
And the body cam comes on during the apprehension. So it wasn't on during, most of it, but when it comes on, we start seeing it there. Um, and the thing about it, Carmelo actually, Chris, was cooperating. He was compliant. He was following orders. He was, respectful. What's your name? He was spelling his name out without the officer even prompting him. And he goes over and he
Are
sits
we
him down,
running?
and then the
I
officer
can't
cuffs
hear.
him
It's
just to
frozen.
detain him. Before they even, take him off campus in the squad car down to the
Frozen.
jail, any of that. But one of the most important things about one of these body cams, Chris, is the audio, because you hear they're walking along and the officer's kind of just doing some back and forth with them. And then you hear Carmelo say, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. And that's the part that the prosecution's harping on, the I told him not to part, because they're pretty much saying that part's a lie. Every account that we've heard so far in the reporting over the last year and some of the students today was just the whole touch me and see what happens. It wasn't don't touch me. It wasn't, if you keep your hands off me, we're cool. It was touch me and see what happens, making it sound more on the offensive. But when he said that statement, though, Chris, the whole I told him not to put his hands on me and all that, he was sobbing. The emotion was you heard it. You didn't see his face, but you heard it instantaneously. They radioed in, we have the alleged suspect. Carmelo then goes, it's not alleged, I did it.
Some of the students, some of the teammates of Austin Metcalf who were there under this tent, there was like 5 or 6 of them who spoke. And there were some common themes to what they said. These are state witnesses brought by the prosecution. What were some of the things that stood out to you just on their account of what they saw that day?
Well, Chris, one of the main commonalities, the common denominators between them all is what you just pointed out, the speed at which it happened. All of them said that they didn't even realize what had happened because it had happened so fast. I mean, including Austin Metcalf himself. They said when the stabbing happened, they said they looked at Austin and he was just stumbling back and he just, was doing, a motion like this. And then he pulled his shirt up and that's when they saw the gaping wound. But not one of them said they even saw a knife. So that was one thing, Chris. The biggest commonality between them all is that they all said Carmelo was the aggressor. They all said they were sitting under the tent and he walks up and just sits under there. Didn't say anything really to anybody. One person said that he shook hands with another teenager there, but even when he did that, he just sat down and wasn't talking to anyone. Didn't ask, hey, can I sit here? Hey, what's going on? And of course, they kept diving into the tent culture, at track meets where each tent is pretty much alluded to as a locker room for each team, and you wouldn't hang out in the opposing team's locker room. And they also said their coaches didn't really allow it. If the coaches saw somebody from the opposing team, like Carmelo was from Centennial High School, sitting under the Memorial High School tent, that just would not have been allowed. So all of them say, who was this kid? One described him as a random kid who just came down from the top of the bleachers, sat down. Questions started circulating, like, who are you? What's your name? What are you doing here? And that's eventually when they say, Austin Metcalf stood up because he was looked at as a leader of the team, looked at as a team captain. He was the captain on the football team as a linebacker, and a lot of, there's a lot of translation between football and track athletes. So they're all kind of one big family. And they say he stood up and all of them said that Austin started off calmly. Hey, man, what's going on? You shouldn't really be here. Just get off from under the tent. Not in any aggressive way. Everything was calm. And they said Carmelo was just like not responding, just saying no, or if you want me to move, you're going to have to make me move. Just, being real adamant about not leaving the tent. And so eventually they said Austin started getting a little frustrated. People, other people under the tent started getting frustrated. Others were chiming in. Some of the people on the witness stand, some of the students testified to that they were chiming in also. Like, what are you doing here, man? Like, And none of them said any cussing was going on. They asked specifically, were there any profanity, any cussing? They're like, not that I remember. So maybe it wasn't a nasty altercation, but just a frustrating one. And so the students did admit that Austin started getting a little heated. Carmelo started getting a little heated. But then they started talking about Carmelo's hand in the bag. And then that all of them said that same thing that we've heard, Chris, the phrase, touch me and find out. Touch me and you see what happens. And, they started talking about how here in Frisco, Texas, here in Collin County, this is, suburban, fantasy land. Like this, none of this happens out here. That all of them were saying the same things, that they would not have expected someone to bring a knife to a track meet on school grounds. They have never heard of anything like that. They weren't expecting anything like that. I mean, imagine being 14, 15, 16, and you're not thinking about somebody having a knife in a book bag, to the point where they said, Austin looked at him and said, "Oh, you don't have anything in that bag," like calling his bluff, pretty much. He had his hand in the bag and said, "Oh, you don't have anything in there. We live in Frisco. You aren't going to do anything." And they say that's when Austin walked up, and, that's where the inconsistency comes in. Was it a hard push? Was it a one-handed push? Whatever it happened, they say that's when the stabbing happened so fast. And another thing they all said, Chris, was that it was, it was a little bit of a commotion, but they all said they did not even expect a fight to happen. One girl testified, and she was at the tent next to it at Liberty High School, maybe 20, 30 feet away. She heard the argument going on, but she thought it was just boys being boys, and she went to go watch the 3,200 race. And by the time she walked down to the fence, Austin was stabbed. And, the prosecutor asked her, if you're a teenager, if you expected a fight, teenagers are going to pull their phones out. We've seen fights before in high school. It's like watching a wrestling match. You're not going to turn away from that. But everyone seemed to turn away. People were on their phones, scrolling TikTok, scrolling Instagram, not really concerned with what was happening. They heard it happening, but it wasn't to the point where they thought this would be the result here.
And the other part, too, that stood out to me, just looking at some of the notes from today, is how many of them bluntly said in court that they did not believe that this was self-defense.
Under cross-examination, the defense was not really attacking these students aggressively. I don't know if that's a strategy move, given, some of them are minor, some of them have graduated, going off to college here in the fall, but they weren't really going at them as hard as I expected them to. I would imagine you have a couple of teenagers, you're trying to slice and dice their stories, find every inconsistency that you can find. But the thing about it is they were essentially asking the same questions that the prosecution was asking. And the kids were just reiterating what they'd already said under direct. So it's a very interesting strategy to me, Chris, because, I always looked at cross-examination as you're trying to essentially cross somebody up to go in the favor of your client on the defense's side. So real lack of aggression here, but of course we're only on day 2.
I did notice that they've brought up Carmelo Anthony's size multiple times, that he is smaller than Austin Metcalf. I think Austin Metcalf was like 6'1", 6'2", 215. Carmelo Anthony maybe like 185, right? I mean, I know he played defensive back. I think Austin Metcalf was like a linebacker or a defensive end. So there's like a little size difference. But
I think where they're going, they're trying to show some kind of stark disparity. Okay, we got the two twins over here that, again, 6'1", 6'2", 215, burly boys, linebackers, all of this. But they're trying to make them out to seem like these big bullies, I feel. But I think that's just what they're trying to throw at the wall here, Chris, to show aggression on Austin Metcalf's side, trying to aid in that self-defense claim that they're having or presenting for Carmelo Anthony. The prosecution already, pulling at the heartstrings of this jury. As the defense still has their time to come present their case, but I just wonder, I fear if some of those jurors have already made up their mind, given the extreme nature of what went down, the gravity of this situation here.
All right. So again, sorry for how long these videos are, but I'm trying to be as factual about what was presented in court as possible. And the only way to do that is, like I said, to go by using this reporter, because I don't have any transcripts or anything. What did you think of what you heard? Oh, can you hear me? I guess it's just me. All right. So I'll just tell you how I feel about it. So far, like, to me, the defense isn't really putting on much of defense. He didn't talk about he's basically just reiterating what the prosecution has said. I can't speak to
I can't hear
like a chipmunk.
I can't hear you, Bobby.
Can you hear me? I hear
Let
you.
me try to get back in.
Continuing on, the defense to me has not
Are you
really
there?
put on a case at Oh, yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
Still can't hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh no.
Ronnie,
What's
can you hear
going
me?
on?
Ronnie?
I can't
Hope it's
hear
not
I
me.
can't
nothing.
hear you.
Hello? Can y'all hear me?
I can hear
You
you
hear
on
me,
YouTube
Ronnie?
though.
Yeah, I can't hear y'all. I mean,
Hold
I
on
can hear
there.
y'all, but y'all can't. Okay.
Microphone not working.
I can hear you on YouTube.
Okay.
I
All
can't
right.
hear
I don't
him.
know what's going on. Yeah, I hear y'all. I hear y'all loud and clear. Let me put in another. Let me see if I can put another.
I can hear you. It's just I can't hear you on
You
my
can hear me now?
headset. I don't know what's
Can
going
you hear
on.
me?
I can't even hear myself
Yeah, I
on
got you.
on the YouTube.
Can you hear me? Can you hear Onk?
Oh, I can hear myself on YouTube good now.
Yeah.
So that's all
Having
good.
some
I'll
technical
just go by the YouTube. I
difficulties.
watch myself on the big screen. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some technical difficulties, y'all. I
My
got some
video is
technical
off though.
difficulties. Yeah, y'all can always call me too. I got
That's my
the
video
phone is
off.
working as well. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna just continue to talk. Can you hear Onk? Can you hear me at all? All right, I'm gonna continue to talk. So yeah, so to me, the I can't say that any of these kids are lying, because I obviously
I
was
can hear
not
you now.
there. All right, can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me
you
now?
now.
Okay,
What was the
all right,
Go
question?
ahead,
sweet.
Bobby. We got you, bro.
Um, all right, okay, sweet, sweet, sweet. All right. So what I'll just go with you first on. What did you think about day two? Like, to me, I'll just say I can't say that these kids were lying because I was not there, but their stories are consistent that they feel like one, the part that gets me is they say that whatchamacallit was the Carmelo was the aggressor, but they also said that Austin stepped to him and it happened so fast that he pushed, and then you can't be aggressor. To me, aggression is not saying I'm not leaving. He has, whether it's a tent culture or not, he has the right to sit anywhere he wants.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
It wasn't against the law. He wasn't trespassing. You may not have liked it. So what it should have happened was he should have went. Somebody should have went and got a teacher or a coach or whoever and got him out of there. So the aggression was not. He could say, "Yeah, I'm not leaving it," and as long as he's not getting up and putting his hands on anybody else, that's not aggressive. That's just saying, "I'm not leaving." What do you say about the whole day two in and of itself, though?
You know, I I heard everything that was just played.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't understand why Carmelo thought that it was okay
I agree.
to go into someone else's tent,
Can
Bobby.
you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
hear you,
yeah, we hear
Ronnie.
you. We hear you, Ronnie.
Why it was okay for Carmelo to go into another school's tent and sit down. He wasn't even courteous about it from what
Mm-hmm.
we've heard so far. He wasn't courteous where he said, "Hey, is it okay if I sit here? Are you guys okay?" Even though he dapped someone up, he may have knew one of the runners because they kind of sometimes do know each other across schools because they
Mm-hmm.
running for so long. Okay, if I'm hearing that he was invited. Oh well, where's that person that to stand up for him and say, "Hey, I invited him for do this deal." Okay, when Austin stood up and Austin said, "Hey, what's up with you?" Why didn't that person? Where was that person at to say, "Hey, I invited him over there"?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is why Carmelo just doesn't say, "Hey, I was invited over here by Josh Adams. He's on the field right now. He told me it's okay to come sit down. Am I intruding on you guys?"
Mm-hmm.
It could have been handled a lot differently. And
I agree.
actually, I think
16 seconds.
it could have been handled a lot differently on Carmelo's part. But
Mm-hmm.
probably because he already had the knife in his bag that we know of, you know. which he should not have had on school grounds.
Correct.
You bring a weapon on school grounds, and believe me, when you are running track, you are on school grounds. It doesn't matter which school you are at.
Mm-hmm.
You are automatically you gone. It's automatic. You're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to. My question is, why do he think he need to walk around for knife? He's in Frisco. He's in freaking Frisco, Texas, man. Bobby, you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, yeah,
He's out
yeah,
there in La La
absolutely.
Land, man. He's out there where the fairies and be raising up and putting pixie dust on everybody. Come on. What is
Yeah.
going on with
Now,
him?
but again, and I agree with you. Like etiquette wise, it was not good etiquette because they do have that culture or whatever. Your team, my team's over here, your team over there, whatever. That still does not give Austin the right to put his hands on Carmelo. Carmelo can say till he's blue in the face, I'm not
I
leaving.
agree with you there.
And I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Like Carmelo definitely could have handled it differently. However, it does not give him the right to put his hands on him and say you're going to leave.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I agree with you there that Austin, he may have taken it too far with his
Mm-hmm.
aggression.
Mm-hmm.
So you had two kids that doing something that it was taken too far. And it
Yeah.
started with Carmelo and what he did. And it ended with Austin thinking that he's the big dog. Hey, what's up? Right? Also, you got to
Mm-hmm.
understand that you have a whole bunch of uh, kids that they didn't even realize what was going down. You got to understand the nature of what was going on. It's a school event. They would never think that something like this would happen. They
Yeah.
out there on the field doing their thing, man. They never would have thought something like this would happen.
So I want to interject and just say this is one of the comments. Kyle Rittenhouse had a whole rifle. We got to stop asking why he had a knife. Stop.
That's true.
And I'll just
That's
speak
true.
for
No, 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 no. I
that's true.
understand. I understand, Keith, what you're saying. We need to stop, but we need to start. Why the hell they got? What is going on with this? You're right, Keith. Yeah, we should be at a point where we don't have to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
But
reality is the question. Unfortunately, we know that Kyle. We're not going to go into that story, but that's some crazy crap that happened with that boy, the kid with the AR coming down. That's
yeah,
crazy. That is on a different level right there. That boy should be in his ass in jail for sure with what he did. He was
I
he
agree.
was definitely the aggressor, and I'm going to look out to kill somebody. This is a different deal. This is a
Mm-hmm.
different. I think it's just a different type of story. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I agree. I want to get into day 3 because we still got a few more
Three
days
more
of
days.
testimony. I know. That's why
Go
again,
for it.
this was taxing, but I wanted to present the actual facts of what was said in the case so that way we can talk about. So Kilo Bravo, we actually do want to talk about Eddie because Eddie did testify and did that. So we're going to get into that.
Oh,
And we're
okay.
going to get
Let's
in
go.
what
Okay.
Eddie
Okay.
actually had to say. But this is day 3. This is the end of prosecutor and going into with the defense starting to lead their case as well.
What stood out to you today? I know they called a couple of track athletes to the stand as well as a police officer. Walk us through kind of these final witnesses and what they mean for the defense in this case.
Yeah, again, 3 witnesses here, Chris. The police officer was really short. It was only 10 or 15 minutes. And the point that he pretty much made is that it is not illegal to carry a 5.5 or below a 5.5 inch blade knife into a stadium. While it might be, against school policy, it's not criminally illegal. The blade has to be less than 5.5 inches though. So he pointed that out, and that was pretty much the crux of his testimony. But one of the witnesses today, Chris, one of those athletes who was there, was testifying, of course, about the rain. Everything we've heard about this rain, and as part of the defense narrative as to why Carmelo was under that tent, trying to get out of the rain, which makes sense. He talked about when the rain started, him, Carmelo, and like 2 or 3 other students went to the dugout a baseball dugout that's right behind the stadium to get out of the rain. He said they were only there for a few minutes before a coach came and told them they couldn't hang out there. And then as they were walking back from the dugout, this student says that his coach, he was on the 4x1 relay, told them to start warming up. And so they all go there, him, Karmelo, and everybody else go down to the field to start warming up. And he says, they're doing their thing, stretching out, running up and down the tracks, just warming their legs up and everything. And then he says he sees Karmelo go up into the stands. And, him and Karmelo, he knows him. He's known him for a while. That's, his friend on the track team, a teammate. And then he says he's out there warming up, and he starts hearing some sort of commotion under the memorial tent. And so he says, he's not quite sure what was going on. Was it, people that knew each other horsing around? Was it, a fight about to break out? He just wasn't sure, but it was loud enough and enough commotion to be concerned. And then he eventually saw Karmelo, and he described it as, sort of being kind of surrounded in his initial police report, as a police interrogation, the answers he gave police once this happened. He described it as Karmelo as being surrounded. So he walks us through how he was walking towards the bleachers from the grass, about the 40-yard line he said he was on, towards the bleachers, just to see what was going on. He's turning back to see if his teammates are realizing what's going on. And then he sees, a bunch of students scatter. That was his testimony. And that was, of course, the moment that the stabbing happened. Now, under cross-examination, the prosecutor hopped up and showed that surveillance video yet again. And he kind of challenged what the kid was saying. The surveillance video had all kinds of angles. We have the angle on what happened, and then we have the angle that we actually saw of where this kid was on the field warming up. And they're playing the video, and it gets to the point, and the prosecutor literally goes, boom, this is the stabbing right here, and then he paused it. And then it shows the kid and another collection of runners not walking towards the stadium. So pretty much challenging what the kid had said. And then he talked about how he had interviewed the kid, weeks before pre-trial. And he said when he showed him that video, the kid agrees that, some of his accounts didn't line up. Some of them were just plain wrong. And the kid agreed to that on the stand. So that was very interesting. And then, of course, on redirect, the defense comes back and says, well, if I told you that, the timestamps of these two angles of the video didn't match up, you would have, no idea of that. And the kid obviously, agreed to that. He's like, I don't know about the timestamps, but that came up early.
I just realized, y'all, that I went out of order and I did not do day 3. I went straight to day 4, which day 3 is when they talk about Eddie. So I'm gonna just play day 3 real quick.
Why did Carmelo Anthony have a knife at a high school track meet that day? After days of testimony from prosecution witnesses, the defense called Anthony's track coach as its first witness. And from the moment he took the stand, jurors heard a different account of what happened in the moments leading up to the deadly confrontation. All right,
So we've heard this Eddie character's name, Chris, throughout the entire duration of all the student witnesses that have taken the stand. He is the common denominator. We heard a lot of people saying Karmelo knew Eddie. He came over and dapped Eddie up, gave him a handshake. Eddie was a childhood friend of Karmelo's now ex-girlfriend. So that's the connection there. Now, based on all the testimony that the students brought up during the prosecution's case, they were all saying that Eddie and Karmelo looked like they knew each other. It was the obvious link. And that's what the defense kind of talked about in their opening statements. Of course, some people under the tent said they didn't know who Karmelo was.
So again, Eddie is supposed to be the one that invited him into the tent. This is the one that he knew.
But they looked over, he was sitting next to Eddie. Everything came back to this guy named Eddie. All right. So I was thinking, as I've been sitting there for the past few days, that Eddie was going to be a defense witness, because if he's great friends with Karmelo, then obviously, he'd fend for his friend, I would say. But one thing I was thinking before he got called was, if he knew Karmelo, why wouldn't he stand up and let everybody know, when all the commotion started, hey, this is my friend, he's here with me, blah, blah, blah. Everything's cool. But never heard that from any of the students' testimony. But anyway, Eddie gets on the stand today. They're going through his testimony. He's about 5 or 10 minutes in. And then Eddie kind of all but says, he knew who Karmelo was. They were cool, but he verbally said, I wouldn't say we were friends. It was just kind of someone that he knew. Okay, cool. Now we move on to the cross-examination by the defense. And this is, I feel, was a little bit of a win for the defense. They showed a whole bunch of pictures of Eddie and Karmelo at these different group settings, at Eddie's house, no less. There was 50th birthday parties for Karmelo's ex-girlfriend's mother. Remember, Eddie and the girlfriend, this girl named Valeria, they were the ones that knew each other, and Karmelo was, I guess, the third party, you would say. So when they had these family functions, Karmelo obviously was there. Okay, they showed some group photos kind of establishing Then here's another defense win to me today. They showed photos of Carmelo and Eddie together, just being teenagers goofing off.
Mm,
One is playing a
mm.
guitar. They're making silly faces at the
Yeah.
camera.
Eddie was clearly lying by saying he didn't know that he wasn't really friends with him, and they got all these
He gets
pictures.
up there under direct examination saying, yeah, I know him, but, I wouldn't say he's a friend. But then the defense pushes back and is like, hey, if you're not friends, why do you have all these pictures together? But the crux of Eddie's testimony today, though, Chris, was that he definitely got emotional talking about Austin's death. He said Austin was like a brother to him. He said that on the stand. And when he was describing, everything that he saw that day, when he came back and saw Austin had a hole in his chest, he immediately choked up and started crying instantly. They had to walk up there and give him.
In some of the cross-examinations, like it seems like the prosecution continues to hone in on that in asking questions to whether it's a coach or a teammate of Carmelo Anthony about having this knife at a track meet.
Yeah, Chris, because that question, that's the biggest question, and it hasn't been answered. And, even with the three witnesses today, the second witness was a student and a very good friend of Carmelo's. And, it started off, I thought the defense was on a roll. I was like, all right, the defense is coming back now. The student was talking about how at different track meets, they go under tents. He sits under tents all the time. He actually specified that he sat under the memorial tent for several minutes with Carmelo because they had a common friend that was on the track team. So I was like, oh, here's some pushback. Here's, some clarity in the air about this tent culture. Everything's rolling good for the defense. And then the prosecution comes back and asks, 4 or 5 questions. One of those questions being, do you expect a knife to be at a track meet? No, sir. Should a knife be at a track meet? No, sir. Did you expect anything like this to happen? No, sir. Just all these different things addressing the knife situation, which, to the average person seems like common knowledge not to have a weapon on school grounds, no matter if it's legal or not. Just having a weapon, people can legally carry guns, but you can't have them inside a school. You know what I mean? So that's where the prosecution was going every single time the defense tried to get the ball rolling. The prosecution asked those 4 questions that the answers to those questions went in the prosecution's favor and not the defense's.
But it still seems like there's still this question of like, was Carmelo Anthony in a position where he needed to defend himself to the point that he pulls a knife out of a backpack and stabs Austin Metcalf in the chest? And it just seems like we keep getting to this point and you're kind of waiting to hear that other side of the story.
That's exactly what everyone in here is waiting for. It's what I'm waiting for, Chris. I want to hear the other side of the story because everything so far from all the students, all the eyewitness accounts who were there on the scene, not talking about the coaches who were may have been scattered out, across the stadium. We're talking students who were feet away under the same tent, every last one of them. And let me just address this too, Chris. I mean, I know, the racial aspect of this is a big deal. There have been several Black and Hispanic students, probably the majority of these students have been Black or Hispanic, testifying about these different things, talking about their love for the Metcalf family and what have you. But all of these students come back saying that they didn't even expect anything to happen. They thought it was just, some trash talk, some boys, just going back at it. And everything you've seen before, may have been some profanity. Some say they don't recall profanity. Some say they did. But none of them said that they felt like anything like this was about to happen. One of them even just said they thought, okay, when Austin shoved them, maybe there would have been a shove back and, that would have been it. But every last one said everything happened so fast. And then they didn't even realize what happened until Austin pulls his shirt up and they see a hole in his chest. So to your point, Chris, I'm waiting to hear the defense, whether maybe Carmelo Anthony will take the stand and testify about his own fears, which I would love to hear. I would love to hear both sides. That's how we get a fair trial. But right now, as of now, we haven't really heard anything that results in self-defense by lethal force. In fact, one of the students today said, the question that the prosecution has been asking towards the end, do you feel this was self-defense? Many of the students just say, no, sir. One said, no, that was lethal force versus non-lethal force, which, fair point. Yeah, Chris, and it was interesting before he took the stand, or right when he took the stand, the defense attorney said that they had not talked before. It was like, sir,
This is the first one of the witnesses, not one of the first, but one of the witnesses for the defense. So this now the prosecutors rest their case. Now the defense is actually putting their case on, and this is a defense witness, and a defense witness and a defense lawyer talk about at the beginning of this case that he didn't even prep him. He didn't even talk to the witness that he's putting on the stand for the defense. Let me say that again. The defense lawyer who's being paid calling a witness that he didn't even prep and talk to. What are we doing here? So go ahead.
Just 2 minutes right now in the hallway. I thought that was interesting because if you're trying to, gain an edge or gain a leg up, why would you have a witness that you haven't done, witness preparation with? But anyway, they start talking. They're walking through the events. It takes them about 20 to 30 minutes to walk through the lead ups to everything and what this kid saw. And we heard this for the first time today. He said, Karmelo, the whole thing with the hand in the bag and touch me and see what happens. He said that Austin Metcalf tapped Karmelo on the shoulder, like as an annoyance, like, oh yeah, touch me and see what happens. And then he says something that we haven't heard yet. He said, Karmelo said, okay, well, hit me and see what happens, or punch me and see what happens, which we haven't heard that testimony from any student so far. So I'm just wondering, why it was just now said here. We've had over 10 of these student witnesses, and it was just said now during this witness. And then, as he was testifying, he was kind of disagreeing with some of the things that the defense attorney was throwing out. Obviously asking questions to kind of fit the narrative of the defense here with the self-defense claim. And one of their, narratives that they're throwing out is that, these Metcalf boys were some big boys, 6'1", 6'2", linebackers, over 200 pounds. And they started talking about the size comparison thing again, starting to go down that rabbit hole. And they were talking about Austin. Austin was 6'1", 213, according to the medical examiner. And his brother Hunter, the defense is like, well, Hunter was similar in size, trying to make them out to be, the big bullies and all. That's the narrative they're going down. And as the defense attorney is asking this, I can see Jeff Metcalf, the father, just shaking his head like these boys are not the same size. And the young man on the stand said, I wouldn't say that. And he actually said that Austin was substantially bigger than Hunter, which is very interesting. I mean, you're going down this narrative and then you have a witness on the stand that's supposed to be in support of your narrative and he's negating things that you're saying. I don't know how that looks in front of a jury. I imagine it's kind of damaging, maybe not extremely damaging, but it can't be, positive.
Yeah, and I saw this is one of the notes that you put in there, just something along the line of you have Hunter, who is apparently and this is before the incident happens. Hunter is apparently talking to Karmelo Anthony. Austin's tone was moderate, and I guess this student kind of doesn't remember saying this to a detective, but he had recalled at the time something along the lines of Austin said, you better move before I beat your, another word for behind that we can't say here, which that is different. That is different than what we heard from some of the other students as far as, if you're talking about the situation that Karmelo was in, that is certainly different than what we've heard from some of the state witnesses that came earlier in the week.
Yeah, and that's a win for the defense if the jury takes it on, because that shows that Austin Metcalf was equally an aggressor here, because so far, through all the witnesses with the prosecution, everyone's, in this agreement that Karmelo was this aggressor. Karmelo was the instigator. Maybe that's a better word, and that Austin was just simply frustrated. But now we're hearing that Austin might have been saying some curse words back to Karmelo, maybe provoking each other, versus just being a one-sided thing. No matter whether Karmelo was randomly there, under the tent or not, I mean, we're still talking about the provocation between these two young men, and that's what matters here. What are the facts and the truth surrounding that?
When you look at the cross-examination, though, from the prosecution, and it seemed like that they were almost prepared for this witness and what they were going to say, because there was one line, and I'm just kind of picking one out here, something along the lines of he wasn't from the shove that Austin Metcalf gave Karmelo Anthony, he was anticipating a shove back, something along that lines. Yeah. He was not anticipating Karmelo Anthony to pull a knife out and use that type of force. It just seems like the prosecution in some of these cases is prepared for what potentially could be some damaging testimony like what this student talked about.
Exactly. And that's to the point I was making earlier, Chris. When the defense brought this witness up there, he clarified to the court that they hadn't talked before. But then when the prosecution says, oh, yeah, we've talked for more than 2 minutes. And I was like, why would the prosecution be talking longer to a defense witness? But they were going down this path, and it seemed like the kid was under direct examination versus cross-examination when they came to talking to the prosecution, because the prosecutor was walking down kind of the same questions that he'd been asking their student witnesses when they got on the stand, just establishing the scene. And again, to the point, the line you just pointed out, he was just expecting this shove back. Not really concerned. He's kind of watching the races and everything going on, not expecting a knife to get pulled out, and not even being concerned or scared of the situation. He didn't even feel like there was a fight that was going to happen. And he also ended by saying, he did not see Austin Metcalf as wanting to fight. He clearly said in his last answer by the prosecution under cross-examination that he felt Karmelo was in the wrong. And that's how the day ended. That was right before the adjournment and the recess right here, right now. So they got a few wins here, Chris, some small wins on the defensive side. I would have, liked to hear more challenges by the defense just to, to make it seem like it was a fair assessment of what was going on. But based on the witnesses called today, and again, very early, we don't know what next week is going to look like. They have an off day tomorrow on Sunday. We don't know if Karmelo will take the stand. We don't know if we'll have some stronger witnesses. But based off the witnesses today, it seems like they're off to a weaker start than expected.
So again, to me, I feel like the defense was inadequate, to say the least. What do you say, on?
I agree with you. The defense was terrible. It was just terrible. I mean, what is going on with the defense? Not even prepping
Your
the witnesses.
witnesses. Your
Yeah,
witnesses. Your
your
witness.
own witness. You don't go and prep them and go communicate with them and put the time in and say, okay, give me the 411, and so we can make sure we all on the same page when we go to court.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
terrible. That's
And it doesn't seem like anybody asked questions of, did you invite him in? Was he sitting next to you? Was
right,
y'all small? Was y'all talking?
right.
Like those simple questions, like the defense was
hmm
horrible. I don't understand, it- it's horrible. Ronnie, what do you say? I don't know if you can hear.
Don't see Ronnie.
Yeah, he had to take care of something. So it's just me and you
Okay.
right now. But yeah, it's the defense was horrible. So yeah, now I'm gonna go back to the other one. So again, this is why I said the videos are longer, but they give you a full picture of what happened in the
Right, right,
courtroom. We don't know. We'll never know what happened in real life. You know what I
right.
mean? Like is Carmelo's account is every it's what happened on Austin what happened, and then it's the truth. But this is what they're saying in court, and this is what matters. This is what's going to get you convicted or not, is what they're saying in court. Ronnie, can you hear us?
Don't see
Can you
him.
hear us? You muted. I don't know if you know that or not, Ronnie. You muted. So yeah, I'm gonna play the next one again because they're longer. Again, this is another one, but we're gonna play this one from the middle. So we're almost halfway through this one because this is just the rest of the defense. Because to me, even as the commentary from this reporter is saying, the defense is just horrible.
What
Just
stood
not
out to you?
doing a good job.
One of the questions that we've talked about, and it's come up a lot, is like, why does he have a knife at a track meet? And it seems like just based off this police officer, and I believe the blade was 5.5 inches or more, then that would be a weapon you're not allowed to have. The blade in this situation, I think, was 3.5 inches. And it seems like just from this testimony that the argument about it's not necessarily like, oh, well, he had a blade at a track meet, and most people have said that they don't think that a blade should be at a track meet. It's more a question of, well, it's not really illegal to have it in his bag.
Yeah, that's the ultimate question. But the thing about it, Chris, and we talked about this previously, it was never addressed as to why it was there. I mean, they could have thrown out, maybe he liked to camp. Maybe he had a job outside of work to where, he lawfully had a knife on him. They did not even address that, which I thought was a major loss for the defense. Tell us why this knife was there. We know he used it. We know he made a terrible mistake and it ended in this horrible tragedy. But I felt like addressing why the knife was even there would have been, beneficial to them. But they, of course, missed that opportunity here. And, all that officer did was pretty much say it's not criminal to have a knife that's under 5.5 inches. So, again, he was only on the stand for a few minutes, Chris. I don't know how much that impact.
One thing I was thinking of today, just kind of like going through the notes, is just how many people on the state side of it bluntly said in court that they did not believe that this was self-defense. And then you look at some of the defense witnesses, and I didn't get a sense of even people who had testified that, they saw commotion and all of this, and maybe they even witnessed this push and thought it was a forceful push from Austin Metcalf. I don't know if there was ever a witness and that looked to the jury and kind of similarly on the defense's side said that they believed that this was self-defense.
No, there's not one. 100% of these student eyewitnesses all said, that one, they didn't think anything was going to happen. Two, all of them said the prosecutions, and actually, oddly enough, Chris, one of the witnesses on Saturday, one of the defense's witnesses, also said they felt Karmelo was in the wrong. And the thing about that witness, Chris, they got up there, they put him on the stand, and the defense attorney said, we haven't talked before. We only talked for 2 minutes outside here in this hallway before you got on. And that was interesting to me because, there's a lot of that goes into witness preparation, especially with a trial with as high magnitude and tension as this one. So I thought that was very peculiar. And then so they walk through the situation and then the prosecution comes up there and the prosecutor's like, so we've talked more than 2 minutes. In fact, I was texting your father last night. So this would have been last Friday night.
Malpractice.
So it was odd to me that it seemed as if the prosecution had a better relationship with one of the defense's witnesses. And then that defense's witness, again, said that he still believed that Karmelo was in the wrong. This is in Saturday's testimony. So I haven't heard any testimony from any of these students there so far that, spoke in favor of Karmelo, which is, I expected going into this that, maybe half and half. Maybe 5 or 6 would say, yeah, Karmelo was being an instigator. And then another couple would say, Austin was being an instigator, which there have been some that said both of them, frustrations were rising. We know how young boys get with the hormones and competitive sports and all that. So we've had some of that too, but no one's really said that this was self-defense. All of them have said that they don't see it as self-defense.
There was a variety of answers when it comes to how strong the push was from Austin Metcalf, but then it feels like we get to that point where this stabbing took place, and it didn't seem like for the defense either that we really had a witness that was able to look and exactly see what happened kind of within that moment. That may be what matters more than anything else in this entire trial.
Yeah, and the thing about it, Chris, that moment, all of the witnesses said it happened so fast. They saw, scuffles going on, but they took it as, nothing's not going to happen. If anything, Austin will push him and he'll push him back. And then before they knew it, they didn't know somebody was stabbed until Austin lifted up his shirt and they described it as a hole in his chest. So, they might not have seen the moment. It seems like the way they describe it was in the blink of an eye. But all of them have described it as, something was going on, emotions were running high, but, they said they weren't really scared. They've seen, boys talk trash to each other before. They've seen this kind of, competitive nature come out. And then all of a sudden, this horrendous act happens that takes the life of Austin Metcalf. So, and it happened just like that, by the way they testified. So maybe they just didn't see it, Chris. But, there's nothing there that, again, from witness testimony that pointed toward that this was actually self-defense based on their account.
So again, to me, he was going to be found guilty. It was just a matter, was it going to be manslaughter or murder?
Agreed.
The defense, you have no witness. At that point, when you have nobody that's saying that it's self-defense, you have to have the choice. You have to put Karmelo on at that point. Or look for a plea deal. Because all of the kids, even the witnesses that you're putting on, are saying that Karmelo was in the wrong, or they didn't feel like that was self-defense. He wasn't going to be found now guilty. He just wasn't.
No, I agree.
Only person that could have helped him at that point was himself.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's an exemplary kid, like I said, almost a straight A student, AB student. He's working 2 jobs. He's captain of the football team, captain of the track team. He's a generally good kid. Put him up there.
Yeah,
put him up. You got to. You have to, because he's the only one that can say, I was defending myself. So
correct.
the other thing I think we got is, so all of this stuff of, he was jumped by these kids. Obviously, he was not jumped because nobody said he was.
Right.
His lawyers ain't saying that he was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
It was an antagonizing, and probably it could have even been a hard push. It could have been a hard push.
Right.
Did it rise to the level of where he felt like he needed to stab him? That's where Karmelo got to come in and say that it does. And his thing, and I have a question that I wanted to ask. Would have it been? Do you think it would have been okay for the defense to say that he had the knife for self-defense because he was dealing with stuff at his other school, or he's had stuff that happened to him in the past where he's gotten jumped or stuff like that?
But that's a question that we don't have the answer to. That's a good question, but we don't know what was going on with Karmelo. This is why you put him on the stand. This is why he should have taken the stand, especially when he's claiming self-defense. He got to explain his mentality and what's been going on with him in his life to make him think it was okay to bring a knife to school.
Yeah.
Right? But we didn't hear that. We didn't get a chance to hear any of that.
No.
And unfortunately, you can tell that his lawyer was terrible in this case.
Terrible.
But
Absolutely.
but even with that, he's probably still would have served some time. Now,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be 35 years,
No.
but he would have served some time in this, if you ask me. But his lawyer did a terrible job of defending him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's just a failure of, I don't know if that's a failure of his family and what type of lawyer they could afford to get. And I don't remember this. Did he did his, was that wasn't a public defender? I don't
No, it was
believe.
not. No, it was a lawyer that
So
they hired.
they went and found
Definitely a
somebody.
lawyer.
They went and found the hammer or something online or whatever.
Yeah. It
They
was
didn't go
definitely.
get they didn't go get Thomas J. Henry or something. You need to go get a high power lawyer that knows some things.
Mm-hmm.
And, I see number one, Miss number one spy diva saying push is still assault. He's absolutely correct about that.
She is. Yep.
Push is still assault. But you got to think about it in the mentality of kids, right? It's a push. It's assault. Do you respond by stabbing, or you respond by throwing hands,
Mm-hmm.
right? But also the world that we live in today, things are different. With that being said, it still goes back to, why does a kid feel as though he needed to, be bringing a knife, to the track meet? For what? What was going on? And these are questions that we don't know.
And
They weren't. They
never
really
had-
weren't answered. They
it
really
wasn't
wasn't
it wasn't
answered.
answered. It wasn't
Yeah.
answered. It wasn't answered. And then you add in there that all of the witnesses said that Carmelo was in the wrong, that it wasn't self-defense. I don't see how he wasn't going to be convicted.
Well, you had that one kid, and Keith was right. He kind of mentioned it.
Do you know
Some
how brave?
someone was being paid off. The boy that invited him kind of changed his tune too. Like,
Yeah.
they done got to the kids.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely was some arms being wrung or something like I don't see how all of those kids, because you can't say that he was the aggressor. I was talking about Carmelo was the aggressor when
Right,
the kid approached him. That's not that
right,
you
right,
can't be the aggressor if somebody's coming to, even if he's saying I'm not leaving, you can't be the aggressor.
right.
You're not the aggressor. Now he elevated the situation by using the knife. I absolutely agree there. A push to
Hmm.
a knife is an elevation, but he was not the aggressor who started the confrontation.
Right.
Whether they felt like he belonged there or not.
And it is something actually with the other kid. The question with him is, if this kid came over to your tent and he stood up because he think he's the big dog,
Mm-hmm.
Mel. Hey, what's up? What you doing here? And he gets some blowback. The question is with him is really, why the hell you didn't go get your coach?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go get your coach?
Yeah.
Was the other kids, or was he the only one that stood up and was saying something? Or there's always more than one kid in those tents,
Mhm.
hanging out.
And let
So
me add,
go ahead.
no, I was going to just say too, his coach was one of Carmelo's coach was one of his witnesses, one of his defense witnesses, and he testified that he was one of the coaches that didn't have a problem with other kids from other schools being under his tent. Now he said he was always there when that happened, but he didn't have a culture where other kids from other schools couldn't go in his tent.
Yeah, but that's not for all the schools.
No, I
That's the way
understand that. I understand that, but I just
yeah.
wanted to add that in.
Okay.
When it comes to that team, and that was just something I had to cut out just for time.
So did the other kids within the tent, did they, say something too?
They
Also,
did
did Carmelo say, hey, you need to get out of here?
yeah, they
Need to
did. They
back
did
up.
say that they were saying stuff to him too, like, well, why are you here and stuff like that. but nobody got to the level of getting up and
What?
confronting them like Austin did.
So
I want to,
why didn't Carmelo go? I was invited. You never heard them say that
yeah,
he told them I was
nobody,
invited from John Blow.
yeah,
John Blow invited me over here.
yeah. Now they've said that he said, oh,
The
they
kid
have
that changed
admitted
his
that,
mind also. The
yeah,
kid that
they have
lied.
admitted
He lied under oath actually.
yeah, he did lie about saying they weren't friends when they were. But the kids, they did say that they seen him dapping or shaking hands with one of the other kids and talking to him. But nobody is, has admitted to saying that he was invited. But again, to me, that doesn't even matter. Even if he wasn't invited, that's an etiquette thing. That is not
Right.
trespassing. That is not
Right.
anything that's unlawful.
Right.
I'm gonna go, Ronnie. I'm gonna go to you, and then I'm gonna go to you, Spy Diva. I know you just came in, Ronnie.
Got the diva in the house.
Yeah, Ronnie. All right. Spy Diva.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, okay. I just had to hop in. I've had some conversations online about this case, and it seems to be a black and white thing. But the thing that I commented and got jumped on about was when I said the lawyer was incompetent, which I believe he was, and the questions that he didn't ask or that he should have asked the witnesses. Did he call more than one witness, or was it just
He called.
the one that he never spoke to before the trial?
He called I think it was like 3 or 4 in total. He called the coach. He called the
Was
one
it
kid.
Carmelo's coach?
Yeah, Carmelo's coach. He called the one kid that the prosecutor said they basically talked to him more than the defense lawyer did.
Yeah, that
think
don't
it was,
make any sense.
I think it was some another girl or something. It was about 4, and they called a cop who said basically that the knife wasn't illegal. But it
Right.
wasn't many witnesses at all.
So, and I don't understand how the prosecution witnesses can say, or everyone that spoke can say, that it wasn't self-defense when they didn't see it. They all admitted that they didn't see it happen, that it happened so fast. So how do they know it wasn't self-defense?
Yeah.
Because they don't know what transpired before the stabbing, because they didn't see the stabbing. And a good lawyer would have challenged, their assessment of what happened if they didn't see it.
Yeah.
I hope he can get an appeal on the basis of incompetent counsel, because his lawyer was incompetent.
Yeah. So
I think his lawyer was probably friends with the defense. The prosecution.
who knows? Who knows? I want to play the last. This one is a short one. This is only 2 minutes, and this is just the closing arguments. And then we'll be done. So you can get the full everything what happened for the case.
What did you make of the defense today? And when it came to the closing arguments before the guilty verdict today, what were kind of the bullet points of what they said in their final opportunity to address the jury?
So they started off, Chris, by pretty much saying, we hadn't heard this before earlier in the trial, saying Austin Metcalf had no authority to remove Carmelo Anthony from that tent. He had all the right to say, get off from under the tent, but he had no authority to physically move him, to make him move. He should have went and got a coach or something. That's what they were pretty much saying. So that was the initial highlight, and that was the whole narrative pretty much of their closing argument. And then, Chris, the biggest highlight to me towards the end, as they're trying to make headway with their closing argument here, was that we've heard about the hand in the bag situation with the phrasing, touch me and see what happens. What the defense attorney phrased or demonstrated, he was saying that he was giving the jury a scenario. And he was saying that if I have my hand in my bag and I tell you I have something in it, something potentially harmful, and I'm telling you to not touch me, you call my bluff saying I don't have anything in it, and then you touch me, and then I pull the thing out and use it, that was a warning and not provocation. So that's how they pretty much ended their closing argument, to which the prosecution got up to their rebuttal and said, do not let the defense turn a threat into a warning. That was the opening line. Do not let them turn a threat into a warning. And then they walked through these 4 distinct reasons as to why this wasn't a self-defense case. One of them was, provoking. You can't claim self-defense by, provoking a situation. And then when, the opposing party retaliates and then you do something bad, you can't claim self-defense with that. They talked about the immediate necessity for the use of force. How immediate was it? Were you really fearing for your life? Was there an opportunity to run? They talked about force disparity. And the prosecutor said that you could meet force with force, i.e., a shove with a shove. You can meet deadly force with deadly force, but you cannot meet normal force with lethal force. Pretty much showing there one person had an edge up because they had a weapon while the other was unarmed. So they walked through a whole bunch of reasons as to why this was self-defense, Chris, and implored that, that the jury find Karmelo Anthony guilty, which now we know ultimately they did.
Him bluntly saying, the prosecutor, you don't get to meet a shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the shove. And I feel like that was kind of, and might be saying something obvious, like really at the heart.
So that was it. Ronnie, what do you think about that? That was the full trial, a snippet of it. What do you think? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of sound like you sound like Mickey Mouse.
Really?
Donald Duck.
He sounds okay to me.
Ronnie?
Let me get back in.
Okay.
So while we're waiting on Ronnie,
Go ahead.
so I had looked this up in the Texas Penal Code, and it says a shove is considered assault in Texas.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, go ahead, Ronnie.
I can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who, me or Ronnie?
Ronnie, I'm trying to get Ronnie.
I can hear you fine on YouTube.
Okay, well go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Start talking. Yeah, just start.
I don't know what the hell
YouTube
going
and
on with
start
this
talking.
thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, I'm gonna give him. That's
It's like a 10-second delay.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the call. Go ahead.
So for me, like everyone said, and I saw a lot of those videos.
Okay, well, go ahead. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
YouTube. I'm gonna give you
10-second delay.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a call.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna call in. Like
All
everyone said, and I saw
right,
a lot.
go ahead. Spy Diva.
So under the Texas Penal Code, a shove is considered assault in Texas. And it's a physical action that does not need to cause a visible injury or severe pain to be classified as a criminal assault. And under the self-defense laws, Texas allows individuals to use force, including deadly force, to protect themselves, to protect others or their property if they reasonably believe it is immediately necessary. The state operates under stand your ground and the Castle Doctrine principles, meaning there's generally no legal duty to retreat if you are legally present and not engaged in criminal activity. Karmelo was legally present because it wasn't against the law for him to be in that tent. And when Austin shoved him, he could have perceived, that this bigger dude was going to do more, especially if, a witness said that I'm going to beat your ass.
Yeah.
So that's something and the lawyer should have read the statute to the jury.
Well, they should
before they deliberated.
They should have gotten that as well with the jury and with the charge.
The judge should have given it to him as well.
Yeah,
and I don't think that happened.
Well, this goes back,
especially for them to find him guilty of murder.
Murder, yeah, that's
murder.
The
and murder means that you intend to cause death,
premeditated.
Right.
Well, it doesn't have to be premeditated. It could be second degree.
Well, but he wasn't charged. He was charged with first degree.
He was just
or manslaughter. And
I thought it was just murder or manslaughter. It was first degree.
He was convicted of first degree.
So first degree means you planned it.
Yeah.
You plan to kill somebody. That's first degree. Murder, by itself just means you intended to cause somebody's death. And Karmelo, with a less than 5-inch pocket knife, you're not intending to kill somebody. And that's what the lawyer should have had in his closing arguments.
That's what goes back to he had a terrible
He was
lawyer,
incompetent.
very incompetent, very incompetent. A skilled lawyer would have been able to point those things out,
Right.
and not saying that this kid would not have been found guilty, but it would have been of the lesser charge.
Mm-hmm.
Or he might have been exonerated, and they may have
Possibly,
found
possibly.
that he, under the Texas law, that he was defending himself.
Mhm.
And one of the people that commented on my incompetent lawyer comment, said it was just a little shove. I said, well, a little shove is still assault.
So
Yeah, because you come shove me a little,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
go
break you off. Right?
ahead. Go ahead,
Okay.
Ronnie.
yeah.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Exactly.
So for me, and I listened to I've seen most of the stuff and I've listened to everyone. But I like to put this out there for folks, right? What if your son was Austin? Would you care about any of the other stuff?
My son wouldn't push anybody.
So hold on. So what I'm saying is, ultimately, what I'm saying is were they both wrong? A possibility.
Mhm.
Obviously, they were both wrong, doing the wrong thing. They could have obviously talked this out,
Yeah.
or obviously we talked about it earlier. Went around this whole situation in a completely different way, but it didn't go that way. Was his lawyer effective? Absolutely not. Was the jury effective? Absolutely not. Because if you had a pool of people and you don't have no one in there that represents you, especially in that area, especially with the demographics and numbers of that area, you would have had at least 2 jurors in there if you was to go by the demographics of the area.
Yep.
Right? But they got rid of all
of them.
All the color or the jurors that looked like him. Why? You know who was the most effective person there? The prosecutor. Because the prosecutor did what he was supposed to do.
That's true.
Got rid of the got rid of the jurors that they didn't find that was going to be good. Another reason that the defense was ineffective is no way in hell that they would have let all the black jurors go, because on the defense they have, I forgot what it's called, but they have something where they can say, nope, I don't care what you say, that juror stands on the jury, right? He didn't even think about or put that in play. So yes, was that ineffective? Absolutely. Was the freaking was the judge ineffective? Possibly. I wasn't in the courtroom, but I do know that before any of the sentences happened, all of that stuff is read verbatim to the jury, verbatim, right? And then they go back and deliberate on what the law is, right? So what were they thinking about when they went to this first degree deal? If it doesn't hit the wickets, all of the wickets in that, it shouldn't have fell into that category of first degree murder.
Well, let me just stop there.
He didn't intend. Hold on. He didn't intend to go and do that, but the prosecution was effective enough to say, "Hey, he did do that because blank, blank, blank," and the defense was ineffective to dispute it and get the right things to say, "Hey, there's no way that kid was going there to that day to go kill that kid that day."
And the only thing I want to add out of that is, in Texas they don't have a difference between first, second, and third degree murder. It's just considered
murder.
Murder is just murder. It's just the charge is simply classified as murder, which is considered first degree felony. So
and murder requires
murder is just murder, So it's still.
So you're saying that if somebody, hold on. You saying basically you're saying if somebody was to go in there and kill somebody on intentionally, that they go in there and shoot somebody in the face, and I know I'm going to kill this person this day, and somebody randomly going to kill somebody, they go get the same sentence?
No, so this is the difference between the two. This is the actual Texas Penal Code.
Trying to make is that I understand that what you guys are talking about, but there's no way you get this kid 38 years.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it was. I don't think it was murder.
Never been in trouble.
Yeah,
a great student, a great athlete, a great human being. You know what I'm saying? There's no way in the world that somebody. There are people that kill multiple people on purpose that has gotten less time than that.
Cops. But they're white. They're white and cops.
Cops do it all the time. And their argument is, I felt threatened.
Threatened, yeah. Yep. I just want to read again what the actual penal code says. Is the defendant in the case, Anthony, must have, this is for murder, must have knowingly and willingly caused the death of another person to be charged with murder. Manslaughter is the defendant must
Call from
hold on
Ronnie
1
Young.
second. Manslaughter is the defendant must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt to have recklessly caused the death of a person to be charged with manslaughter. To me, this was a manslaughter case.
Yeah, I agree.
It was overcharged to begin with.
You know, I have a question.
Go
I have
ahead.
a question.
Appeals, the appeals court going to hopefully tear that stuff apart. But I don't know what it is in Texas. Texas, I don't know what their percentages are. But the whole thing is like ultimately, should he have gotten off scot-free? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, did he go in there? Were we there? Can we tell him if he was in fear of his life with people that surrounded him? I can't determine that. I can't be that person. Right? I wasn't in that tent at that specific time, doing that specific thing, going through the specific time. You know what I mean? I don't know what their background is. You don't know they rival football players. You don't know what their whole thing is behind all that stuff, man. So a lot of it is obviously he needs to get his appeals going. The appeals court hopefully they'll look through this case and understand like this is bullshit, and they'll maybe drop it down to whatever manslaughter it could be. Hopefully, right? Hopefully that their parents or their family somehow or another get some type of freaking. I mean, I'm talking about Austin's, and again, I put myself in their position, right? And I actually kind of put it in both sides of the position, but you got to think of it on both sides of that fence. If you were the person or the parents of that child that was killed, I would be like bury his ass underneath the ground. I don't care what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I mean? And then on the other side of that, if I was the parent of Karmelo, I'd be like, hey, he was defense, he was da-da-da. Of course you're going to do all of that stuff, right? So people like us looking in, you have to look at it on both sides of the fence and try to stay as neutral as possible. Was it something that could have been avoided? Yeah, absolutely. But it didn't. So you can't go back and say, I want to change something.
Yeah.
Hopefully the system goes back and obviously get his kid some type of lesser time on his sentence, because 38 years is a lot of time.
Yeah.
And this is something that I was and me and my sister was discussing about this case. And one thing that hit us is with his lawyer, where is the brother at with the bald head that likes to jump in on these high profile cases to
Ben Crump.
Where the hell's Ben Crump at on this? You know, why Crump didn't even, hey, you know what, I need to go and help my brother out down here in Texas, because Crump is all over, when it's a high profile.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? I'm just wondering where the heck was Crump at on this? Because Crump, he would have had this in the news every day, talking about it.
Yep.
And he's competent.
Was it high profile in the potential thing?
Oh, it was national news.
It was national news.
Well, Ben Crump usually get on cases that are like, that's going to affect everybody, not just something that's like.
No, not necessarily. No. He was in on Trayvon Martin. He was.
That's not regional, bro. That's a freaking whole. Man, the whole freaking country is about to slam out on that one, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, that's a completely different thing, man. Completely different. And Trayvon was he ain't had no guilt at all. You know what I'm saying? He was an innocent kid that got killed. So that's the point. That's a completely different.
I heard you saying
completely different thing.
I want to get Cowboy Keith in. Welcome to the show, Cowboy Keith. What do you bring it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm out here trying to get a walk. I have several friends who are attorneys, and the reason why you probably could never get manslaughter, let me read this one attorney told me. Manslaughter is the unlawful killing of a person without the deliberate intent to cause death or serious harm. So that's the interpretation of manslaughter. You have to be without the intent to cause death or serious harm. And when you ask that question of any jury, when he pulled the knife, were you trying to cause what? Death or serious harm? That's the question they got answered, and why it was never going to be manslaughter.
Yeah,
Not
but
in the state of
Keith,
Texas.
his coach said he pulled him to the side, walked around the track with him, and was asking the kid, "Hey, did you do this?" He said, "Yeah." And the coach explained to him, if he dies, this is going to ruin your life." And the kid response was, "Well, he's not going to die." He didn't even
Right.
think
Right.
that he did enough damage to kill the kid, which
But
means it
it's
wasn't
not to that.
intentional.
Here's a
Okay.
question. I'm going to ask you the same question. Did he stab him to do just harm or serious harm? That's the question.
With a pocket knife,
But pocket
you're
knife,
not intending to do serious
he,
harm.
he probably didn't think he was going to do that much damage with a pocket knife.
It was just the precision of where he stabbed him. He stabbed him in the heart and he bled out.
Right.
You would have to
That's
be a skilled surgeon to know where to
no.
stab
That's the
somebody
cause.
to kill him
No,
like
that's just
that.
to cause death. That's just only to cause death. I'm saying we all agree he
That's
wasn't
what,
trying to cause death.
Yeah.
Was he not?
right.
What can he use? How can you be skilled enough to use the knife and not cause this 2 words, serious harm? How? Show me how he can do that.
Think.
That's the question. That's what they went back to with the jury with. How can he do that knife? Pull a knife. How do you not cause serious harm?
But that's not murder.
That's funny because
but
drunk
that's what
drivers
he's
only
saying.
get manslaughter charges,
Yeah,
and they had freaking competence and the
That,
ability
that's
to kill people with a car.
but
that's yeah. Go ahead.
I would
The
say
jury already made up their mind before they went to deliberate. And they deliberated, found him guilty,
He was
and
going to
sentenced
jail.
him in the same day,
Yeah,
in a matter of hours.
hours.
that's the state of Texas. That's how it is right there.
And
Because
that's the state of
they went
Texas
in.
with a black defendant and a white jury.
Oh, no doubt about that. No doubt. We all agree on that. I wasn't even going to get on because I'm so hot about it that I can't even be rational. That's why I contacted all my lawyer friends, and they explained that how when they were deliberating, they knew already that it's going to be murder. It's either going to be murder or acquittal. It was never going to be manslaughter for the simple fact he could have had anything, a brick, a stick, anything. But when you have a knife, gun, or anything that everybody unanimously says is serious harm, it was always going to be murder. So that's the murder part of it. The 35 years is simply because they look at us and say, we are criminals. So make sure he doesn't get out. Since my son can't live a life, make sure he doesn't live a life. So that's why they said 35 years. So that was going to be that no matter what.
Yeah.
That's the state of Texas. That's what we live in.
To that jury. And I think that may be overturned on appeal because the jury didn't follow the instructions. If
yes,
the
I
judge
agree.
gave them instructions on what the difference between manslaughter and murder is, then they didn't follow the instructions, because there's no way in hell you can say that he intended to kill.
No, it wasn't to kill. You got to stop that. Intend to cause.
That's what
No.
murder. That's what murder is.
No.
Read it.
No. We're talking about manslaughter.
No. He wasn't found guilty of manslaughter. He was found guilty of murder.
I'm saying to get manslaughter, and make sure you're looking at. That's why I wanted to make sure, because it's like when everybody comes on and says first degree, second degree. That's not your state. In Texas, it is very simple. It's very simple. To get manslaughter, you have to have no intent to cause death or serious harm. That's it for manslaughter.
To get murder, you have to have intent, period. And he didn't have intent, and the juror found him guilty of murder.
In what state? In the state of Texas?
Yeah, in Texas. This happened in Texas.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what you're saying. That's what murder is in the state of Texas.
In the state of Texas, murder requires intent. Intent to cause death. And they found him guilty of murder, not manslaughter. Murder.
He intentionally went to go kill him.
Right, that's what they're saying.
No, that's first degree. That is first degree.
But there's no degrees in Texas.
There's no degrees in Texas.
I'm saying that's what I'm saying. There are no degrees in Texas. I'm just saying when you read that, all of the degree, all of the murder saying that's it. You have to be intend to kill.
Yes. You have to intend to kill for it to be murder. And they
I
found him
I
guilty of
I'm
murder.
gonna respectively. I felt the same way at first,
Well, look it
but
up.
after talking to the
Doc just
attorneys
read
from the
it.
state, I don't have to look it up because I got the actual penal code and the code from the lawyers themselves that do these type of cases and do it. I got it. I read it and everything,
And what did it say
and I
about murder?
understood right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, he could never get manslaughter. He could never get it
Why?
because his intent was to cause serious
Or
harm.
was his intent to cause death? That's the difference.
Well, we must be cutting at straws because I'm in Texas and I talk to Texas lawyers. That's why I said about this whole issue. I felt just exactly like you. Exactly. You should have. That's why I told Bobby in the first day, I should never be in it because I felt exactly like you. But I said I'm gonna do my due diligence. I'm gonna
I
go
did
talk to
too.
attorneys
Oh,
who they actually
pretty sure
know,
Diva did
and
hers.
they all came back with the same thing. It was never going to be manslaughter. Never. So I guess we just gonna have to disagree. We just disagree because I felt like you should never be murder, but from what I got and what I got back, it was never going to be manslaughter. So that's just me. So I don't want to argue to any. I'm just saying
Yeah.
they convinced me, and I agree with it because they convinced me.
Yes, intentionally
I agree
or
with Cowboy.
knowingly
I
causes the
hear
death.
exactly what he's saying.
Yeah. Intentionally or
But
knowingly
but this
cause
this is
What the
this
death.
is
law says,
this
but
is
it is what
another
it
part
is.
of it. Intends to cause serious bodily injury and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. That's under murder. And I can see how after Keith says that, just let me say it again. Intends to cause serious bodily injury. So they're looking at the knife as going to cause a serious body injury. And it commits an act clearly dangerous to human life. So he's cutting them and he's cutting them. See, he shivved it, put it in his chest. So that's serious. That's clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. That's murder.
Then every drunk driver that goes out and kills somebody should go to jail for
It's
murder.
for
Is that
murder. By that definition.
not manslaughter, because they all go to jail for manslaughter. They don't usually go to jail for murder. And why is that? Because it fits exactly that exact definition you just said.
And
No,
it's self-defense.
But see, with drinking and driving, you don't intend to hit somebody. Now it happens because you've been drinking. Yes, I agree.
But it caused his death.
It's the cause and effect of drinking too much and you hit somebody. You're correct, but it's not an intentional. It's not intends to cause bodily harm. They didn't get in a car saying, "I'm a ram. I'm a hit somebody."
Well, he didn't go over there. He didn't go.
Hold the knife.
It's a felony already.
Yeah, but he didn't walk over there and say, "I'm going to kill."
Again,
So
but
what's
that's
the
not it. But they're saying the intent came
You look
from
good. You look good,
him
Keith. You look
pulling the
good.
knife out and actually using it. That's when the intent of causing bodily.
Somebody pulled that.
And then that goes
No,
to the self-defense because by Texas law, you can use force, including deadly force, in self-defense if you reasonably believe it is immediately necessary to protect against another person's unlawful use or attempted use of force. Shoving someone is unlawful.
And this is where it comes in at deep spot diva where his counsel was inadequate because
Right.
the counsel.
they
There it
needed to
is.
put
There it is.
Mhm.
every other person is saying it was not self-defense.
Self-defense,
So
right.
they can't go to self-defense. They can't read that off when nobody is saying it's self-defense.
Except for
Nobody.
Carmelo.
When there is, he didn't say
And he wasn't on the stand.
he wasn't on the stand. So they
Right.
don't have anybody to rely and say, well, this was self-defense. Because every person that's seen it said that it was not self-defense.
How would they know if it's self-defense?
And,
so they're saying that
and they didn't see it.
In their opinion.
He just pulled the knife out and stabbed her for no reason?
No, they're saying that it was a tussle, but they're saying in their opinion that they did not rely to self-defense.
So how do you know somebody's? How do you know and put yourself in somebody's?
And that's why Carmelo needed to go
Defense,
That's why
to
you
the
need a
man.
stand.
Defense.
defense. Yeah,
That's why you
yeah,
need
you need more
adequate
defense.
defense.
I agree with
More
you.
defense.
I agree.
I agree
That's why he needed
100%.
more.
More
I agree
defense.
with you. He
Bobby,
needed. He needed.
tell Unc I put the photo on because I thought he would see the officer right behind me in their car. It was perfect timing. That's why I put the
Oh, that's
video on.
good.
Are you in Frisco?
Where you at?
Ooh, nah. But I'm carrying a knife. That's all I want to tell
As
y'all.
long as it's
I
under
always do. I'm a Boy
5.5
Scout.
inches.
I'm a Boy Scout. I know that since I was a kid. That's
Texas, you
exactly.
can carry a gun.
Our troop leader told us what we could carry. He showed us our hand. He put the knife in there. He told us. I've cut wood, knives, knots. I've done everything with a knife. So I know why people carry knives. So that's just me. But that's a whole nother topic. But go ahead, y'all. I'm sorry.
No,
You
But
cut out, Bobby.
yeah. So yeah, the only defense or only thing that's gonna be going on for this guy or for Carmelo is he's gonna have to go
Did
through the
your
appeals
sound go out?
process to get a much
Yeah.
better
yeah.
defense. And hopefully the family that is on the other side of that
I know.
are trying to heal and try to get that their life is gonna be shattered,
Oh,
bro.
that's
And then
sad.
he had a twin, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta look at it in that aspect of it too. Again, like I was saying, you gotta look on both sides of the fence and think about both sides, not just
We
stay
do.
on one side. You
We
gotta be
do.
neutral.
I don't. It's a tragedy all around. It absolutely shouldn't have happened. That's the
Hell
bottom
no.
line. It definitely shouldn't have happened. Yeah.
So that was a great topic, though,
Yeah.
man. I mean,
Yeah,
hopefully they both of the families get. They just do. But again, if you put yourself in that other people, or you put that stuff in office thought process, bro. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
you gotta be realist on that part.
I agree. We're about to go to clean our palate, y'all. This was a good conversation. It really was.
Yeah.
I think we all agree that his defense was
Terrible.
inadequate to say the least. And I can't sit here and say that it was complete self defense because of what was presented in court. I don't know what happened, but from what was being level headed and just being honest with what was presented in court, I can't say that it was complete self defense. But I can't sit here and say that it was. I understand how they got to murder after Keith had said that, and I went and looked at the penal code again and read it off. How they got to murder, I still think it was manslaughter, in my opinion. But
I do too.
Mhm.
I understand it, but it's at that point where we left the jury up to determine if it was what the intent was, and
yeah,
you know how it's always going to be intent, no matter what happens. 18 non-black people could hit you. As soon as you get up and whack 4 of them, and they all hit the curb, you are the aggressor. That's just how it is in this society.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. All right, so let's go to clean our palate. Anybody got anything this week to clean our palate before I go to the official one for this week?
Clean the palate.
Oh yeah, he's always like that.
Kids for the summer, and
I can't hear
traffic in the
Bobby.
morning is great.
I can't hear anybody.
Yeah, we need to. We definitely need to clean our palate so we can get the Spurs to win some
Okay.
damn games. Because this is ridiculous what happened last night. Hopefully,
It's basketball.
yeah.
Okay, let me
All right,
try this.
so again, y'all know I have the nonprofit, and a couple of weeks ago we helped a JROTC unit, a Navy JROTC unit, and from Dallas, help with their students, some of the cadets, to go to a training in Texas. And so this is just their video thanking the foundation for helping them to be able to participate in their thing. That's
Ready, aim, shipmate. Ready, aim, shipmate. That's the organization. So they're the ones that donated to help you all out with any and everything that we doing, coming out here, any and everything. So just say thank you so much.
Yeah. So
Hey,
again,
that's ball, man. That was outstanding.
yeah, and it's again, like I said, the foundation is to help underprivileged and stuff, and you just be surprised how what seems like trivial or a little bit of money to us can go a long way. We were able to help 14 cadets finish off what they
Wow.
needed to get there, off of a few $100. And so everything that you guys have donated and I'm sure will continue to donate absolutely helps. And oh, you keep your own here. So it was Wilbur Hutchins. I didn't even know where that school was. Then South Dallas.
Yeah,
That
way down there in south
way
part of
down-
that.
yeah, that's who we help. So I was so proud to get that and thank you guys for everything that you do to help with the foundation and stuff. And our so that's not even going to be our official. This is what's going to be our official. Our official one is going to be Miss Holly's granddaughter will be making her debut here shortly. So
What?
yep.
All right. All right.
Any
Congratulations.
day now, Holly will be having her grandbaby. So
Congratulations,
we
Holly.
can't wait for that to happen. And so congratulations to everybody. The Ruben, happy birthday to him. And congratulations, Holly. So
That's dope.
Yep. Grandkids is a joy. They really are. So with that being
When
said,
they
we're gonna get
young.
off. Yeah. So I just want to say I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week. Does the Spurs if we get to a game 6, is it on a Wednesday? If it's on a Wednesday, we're going to do Thursday. If not, we back to Wednesday.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Love
Love
y'all.
y'all. Peace.
She's in labor right now. Oh Lordy.
Oh wow, excellent.
Welcome to the world.
Let's go, y'all. I know. Let's go.